Okay, sweet. How you
Cool.
doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, James. Shots for getting in contact.
Yeah, thanks so much for replying and everything. And I
Such a
was,
pleasure, bro.
yeah, no, it's awesome to have you on. I've been wanting to speak to you for a while, and I just had a list of guys that I've been getting through. Lots of
Lekker.
Bosch old boys and everything like that. Um,
Lekker.
yeah, yeah. So maybe to start, you could just give a quick intro to yourself. That would be cool.
Sure. Um, so I'm a proud Rondebosch old boy, and very very privileged to have gone to that school, and really the opportunity to speak to a current Bosch boy is obviously something that I would take up at any opportunity. And after school, just and briefly, I headed to Stellenbosch, obtained an accounting degree, upon which I played a bit of varsity cup, got into a professional setup, and had 7 good years at Western Province in the Stormers. Then, as of April of this year, retired from rugby, and am now into business life full time. And yeah, looking back on all of that very fondly.
Okay, yeah, that's great. How's that transition been for you, that going from rugby to the normal um, business life?
JMO, for me, it's been pretty seamless. So,
Yeah.
because I completed my articles while playing professional rugby, as well as started a business in 2016,
Okay.
I'd always been juggling both rugby and a professional career.
Yeah.
So when it came to stopping the rugby, there's certain things that I will miss, but it's been very easy for me to adjust and essentially become a 8 to 5, corporate person.
Yeah.
New challenge and a great career opportunity, and something that I'm really enjoying. I suppose with those new challenges come new goals that I've set myself, and it's all very exciting at the moment. And just trying to make as a bigger impact as possible.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's what I was thinking of a lot before, is like that whole balance that you had between working
Sure.
and playing at the same time and everything like that. Um, I guess I'll take you back to the beginning of your like
Sure.
whole journey and everything. So maybe the start of your Bosch days and the start of your rugby days at Bosch and all that. So
Cool.
like right from, so were you at the prep school or?
Yeah, so I was part of. I know it's now the 13-year club, but I was part of the 12-year
Yes, yeah.
club. So I went to the prep school and the high school.
Okay.
Um, and sport is within my family. My father played rugby, but in saying that, it was definitely never forced upon us. It was just
Yeah.
important to play and enjoy yourself. I think originally I think I was semi-talented. I think I could catch a ball, and I knew a bit about it.
Mm.
But I wouldn't say I was extremely talented. I played age group A side up until about grade grade 8, and
Yeah.
then I would say the wheels started to fall off. I think the guys with growth spurts and talent started to overtake me.
Yeah.
Um, but through all of that, I think the main reason why I played sport was more for the enjoyment, for the time with my friends. So I still continued and I pursued. I think an important stage in my school career was at the end of grade 10. I made the decision to switch from fly half to lock.
Okay.
Bearing in mind I was still very small, and I was probably still in the shape of a
Yeah.
of a fly half. So I remember Mike van Reeden, was quite perplexed when I asked him, I would like to make the shift in that one preseason, but he was good enough to help me through that. And the reason for that was essentially both my brothers by that stage, who were both older than me,
Yeah.
6 and 3 years respectively, they had both played lock and were doing quite well. And I knew, although I was still quite small, I had a feeling that I was going to grow. My father's quite a tall man, and the odds were that I was probably going to grow some stage. I was just hoping for it to come sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So I made that move, and that was, from a rugby experience, quite daunting, because effectively I've always been a backline player. And as you know, backline players don't like to get their hands too dirty.
Of course, yeah.
So there was a big adjustment for me. But I think, for me, that was important because I'd made a decision that my future would be at lock, essentially, or loose forward. And it was like a no turning back from there. So, great fond memories. That was on the rugby field. I also played a bit of cricket.
Okay.
Pretty much to the same extent. I was age group A up until about grade 10, and then the wheels started falling off. But through that all, it was all about spending time with my mates in a non-classroom environment, and I suppose giving me an outlet other than my academics to focus on. And I think I'm grateful for that at a place like Rondebosch, it's not all about sport. It's everyone's valued, I feel. I mean, I'm sure it's still the same, whether you're culturally strong, academic strong, or sporting strong, there seems to be a recognition that is as valued at the school. And that's why I felt, I always felt quite comfortable, even though I wasn't maybe doing so well on the sporting field. One element, I suppose, which was quite important at Bosch was that in a lot of the teams that I played, whether it was third side rugby in my matric year or third side cricket in my matric year, I was the captain. So I think that gave me quite a lot of leadership experience, and I think said a lot about maybe where some of my value lied. Maybe not in being the most talented individual, but having some leadership skills to offer.
So your leadership days then obviously started throughout. So like you were saying, that gave you like one of your characteristics, you could say.
Sure.
Must have started back then. And then also so throughout high school, so playing, so you said you played thirds in matric.
Yeah.
And how was that, like, matric experience for you, finishing off and last game, memories against Bishops and all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the. I mean, look, it was a special team. We did accomplish some great things.
The dogs, they call them.
You know what? Is it the dogs? Eh? Well, I'll tell you what. We were passionate about our team, and we had some great players. I mean, Marcel Barachi was at 10 when I was at lock, and we had some good players. I suppose not my greatest moment was, in fact, my last 10 minutes of schoolboy rugby. I, in fact, spent off the field with a yellow card at Piley Reese. So I don't think that was the best, but the best as a leader at that stage, as the captain. I got involved in some off the ball stuff, which I'm not my proudest moment. But still, we were, singing the school song before that game. I remember vividly, and I don't think it matters in which team you play. You will put the value of that Bishops Rondebosch derby in the highest, and although the first team game is important and you can't wait to watch that, in your mind, your game is just as important. And some fond memories and great relationships that I suppose still last today.
And that's also, like what you were saying about earlier, what I think makes Bosch different from a lot of other schools around the Cape, and especially me coming from a different, smaller primary school, is like that it caters for everyone, no matter if you're a musician or if you want the sport or the academics. That's what makes it different for me. There's a place for everyone.
I mean, I think there are many other schools that do it, but I think there are other schools that maybe put too much of a focus on the sporting side of things. And I genuinely felt that when I was at Bosch, that the recognition was equal across different facets of the school. And I'm sure it's still the same. And that's why you see how well we do, academically and culturally,
Yeah. And then, so finishing off, you were E. What year did you finish?
E04.
E04. So how was your your rugby your rugby altogether back then, first team and all that? Were you guys
first team did great. So first team had a special story when they went and beat Bishops at Piley Reese against all odds. I think it was 22-17, if I remember correctly. May be wrong. But a massive amount of guts and passion shown. And in fact, I don't think the greatest season from the first team, but if I remember correctly, obviously they won the most important game. And those guys that were involved in that first team, still cherish those moments. It was obviously, very memorable. And so, yeah, I can specifically remember that.
And then how many years was your brother? So you had 2 brothers ahead of you. Was it 1?
So I had 2 brothers, 3 and then 6 years ahead of me. Yeah.
Okay. And
pretty similar. They also went through, the 12-year club and did the whole Bosch journey. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so finishing off your Bosch and your school career, what was your plan leaving school and finishing matric? What were you looking at doing?
Well, I wasn't looking to be a professional rugby player, that I can promise you.
Yeah.
It was definitely not on the cards then. The idea was to go and get an accounting degree and to have a proper student experience. Both my brothers had been to Stellenbosch, so I'd heard all the stories, and by the time matric came, I was ready for that next step, and I couldn't wait to become a Marty. So that was very much the focus. Why accounting? I think I remember, like, at school, there were many subjects that, no one enjoys doing homework, but for some reason I seemed to catch the accounting very quickly. It was by far my best mark, and I think for some reason I just really grasped all the concepts. So that was something that I would easily be able to, I would think, do well at university. So the plan was to go the accounting route and then to convert and become a chartered accountant as quickly as possible. I took a couple of side steps, but I eventually got there. And so definitely focus on being a student and having a student experience. Definitely play rugby, that was on the cards, but more like focusing on my courses, my residence. But I think what was important there is, at that stage, both my older brothers had started really doing well post school and rugby. And bearing in mind, neither of them played first side at Rondebosch. So there was this element of hope that I'd been given that, although I didn't play first side at Bosch, maybe there was a bit of rugby that I could play. And so there was that element of hope and I suppose ambition that started burning in me.
And so going to Marty's and all that, and your rugby kicking off there, how did you get into the rugby at Stellenbosch and the whole rugby scene there?
James, so it was pretty all organic. So played for the Corsairs team, still very small, playing lock, but I was definitely probably one of the smallest guys in that league at that stage. But basically went through the full ranks. So after a couple of good first team games for my Corsairs, I got called up to the junior ranks of Marty's. Never really shot the lights out, but I got into the system. And I suppose what was important at that stage, probably at the age of 20, 21, I started really growing. So essentially hitting a proper growth spurt. A couple of years too late, but it was coming. And was that I suppose...
Was that a lot of gymming as well? Or...
So, it all came together. So with the growth spurt, I started, it basically was getting this opportunity to play in the Marty's ranks, plus growing, plus seeing the advantages of conditioning. And they all kind of three happened together. And so, yes, I started working hard on my conditioning, which had a direct impact on how I could impose myself on the game. And but then also never skipped any stages. I went from junior Marty's to what's called the senior Vix team, which is essentially the not the first side but the second side of Marty's, and then eventually into the first side, and then into Varsity Cup. And I think in my whole rugby journey, Varsity Cup had a imperative role to play. So Varsity Cup exposed me to a professional environment essentially. So
Yeah.
because it's obviously quite a serious tournament and there's lots of exposure, the guys take it very seriously. So the conditioning element was obviously up. There was quite a lot of structure. There was a professional element to the way in which our days were structured. So it would be training in the morning before class, go to class, training in the afternoon,
Yeah.
gym sessions. And it was something that really I enjoyed, something that almost triggered me.
Yeah.
And I suppose most importantly at that stage, my oldest brother would have been playing a bit of professional rugby. So now this whole belief and ambition thing is like hitting the right timing. I'm enjoying it. So I'm enjoying it and I'm liking all the elements of a professional setup. I'm achieving all right. I mean, I played some varsity cup and I did okay. Not shooting the lights out. I was by no means man of the tournament or anything. And no professional team is knocking on my door. But it had given me exposure and quite good exposure. So post to that, I'd made a decision. I want to become a professional rugby player. But bearing in mind, I had just completed my honours degree in accounting,
Okay.
and I had to move to Joburg to do my articles. But nonetheless, I told my folks that I'm going to give this professional rugby, a bash. They weren't quite sure how I was going to achieve that because having articles, you have to commit your certain amount of time. But I mean, I was convinced that it would be possible. So I moved up to Joburg and got involved at a club here called Pirates Rugby Club. And I basically said to myself, give rugby one year, play club rugby, train really hard, train like a professional, and let's see if you can get a call up. And I mean, there were a couple of bumps in the road, but essentially I made it into the Lions amateur team. And then I got spotted by Johan Ackerman, who then invited me to a trial at the Lions. And through that, then eventually got a professional contract at the Lions.
And that like balancing your studies and the rugby at Stellenbosch, how was that for you? Did you find it easy or was it tough at times? Or because I spoke to Liam Greenwald, who's also a Rondebosch old boy.
Yes,
He was captain
captain
of
the UCT
UCT.
side.
Yeah. And he spoke to me a lot about how hard it was for him as well, balancing both and all that. So I just wanted to see how you.
I mean, and I'm sure the setup that Liam was in was probably maybe a notch up from a professionalism point of view, from where I was, maybe a little bit.
Been a few years.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, what was, quite important was, I asked myself the question, do I want to just focus on my studies and not play sport? And the answer was no. So then I said to myself, well, there are 24 hours in the day. It's definitely possible to do the both. You just got to be very intent with your time.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself has given me a good life lesson going forward. And that's, yes, it was tough, but all that I did was I probably sacrificed a lot more on social opportunities. Okay. But by that stage, I'd probably had too many in my life. So as a student, so it was easy. And I think, as far as, I'm sure Liam might have mentioned the same, but discipline comes in and really being intent with the time that you've got in the day. And I, through my honors year, which was my hardest year, I just scraped through. In fact, I even got a rewrite for my honors year, which was nerve-wracking in itself. But if I look back, I'm fully convinced that if I had stopped sport, I probably would have even struggled more, because for me, keeping that balance kept me refreshed, coming back to studies, and was vital, I think, in me obtaining my degree.
Yeah, that's actually he covered basically exactly what you just said, and having that disciplined approach to it, I think is very important.
Sure.
And then, so you said going to Joburg, playing for the Lions. So that first taste of proper professional experience, how was that all for you, getting into the Lions setup? And were you working, or were you doing something on the side as well there back then? Or
Yeah, so I mean, when I started, I was still doing my articles, so it would have been
Yeah.
I was working. I was very fortunate to have a good mentor at Deloitte,
Yes.
who understood my passion for the sport and believed in me, and that was key in reflection, looking at that. But I mean, just a quick story. So I grew up at next to Newlands Cricket Ground. So
Yes.
I walked to all rugby games. I walked to all cricket games. I watched all Newlands rugby games as a scholar. I was a ball boy. So my rugby experience at Newlands by that stage was tremendous.
Yeah.
I'd maybe even had the opportunity to watch a test match or two there. I'd
Okay.
obviously watched Men in Black, the Stormers, like Cornet Crick and those oaks, Bobby Skinstad, my
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Fleck, heroes of mine. Um, and my very first game for the Lions was my debut was against the Sharks away from home,
Okay.
which went really well. And my next game was against Province, and we stay in the Cullinan Hotel.
Okay.
And as you know, so the Cullinan Hotels, as you get into town, you come off into, it's literally on
Yeah.
your left hand side there. But it's important because when we left the Cullinan Hotel and drove to Newlands Stadium, you drive on the N2 and then you turn onto the M3. I
Yeah.
think it's the M3 that takes you then to Newlands. And I was sitting on the left hand side. And if you drive high enough on that M3, basically when you get to UCT on the right hand side, you can
Yes.
see straight into Newlands.
Yeah.
And by that stage, like there was crowd already there. And for me, that was just, like a goosebump moment and a surreal moment, because I'd grown up my entire life dreaming about that place or experiencing
Mm-hmm.
so many things there. And now I was driving in a bus to go and take on Province, you know, at essentially what was for me my home of rugby. And that, I can still remember so vividly driving there and looking at that. And obviously that was a special experience for me.
So your love for Newlands and Province was already installed then. So when you made your move, it was
Yeah.
quite a simple
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, Newlands, Province, the blue and white hoops, and even the Stormers
Yeah.
was what I knew and what I loved.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was I know I was very fortunate. I used to go to the scholars there and sit with my mates, and we used to watch all the games, run on the field afterwards. There's so many
Mm-hmm.
scents, sounds, smells that are associated to that place with me. Um, and when John Dobson called me and gave me the opportunity, by then I'd moved back to Cape Town and
Okay.
started my articles again at the Cape Town Deloitte office. But it was the opportunity to be involved at Province, where I'd always dreamt of. It was something I couldn't turn down. So, I took the opportunity with both hands. And same thing, it was by no means that I got a call up from Dobbo and the next week I was playing the Stormers. It was started Vodacom Cup, worked my way through there, got to the Currie Cup, then into the Stormers, then, so it was very much a slow burner, but some incredible experiences. And my fondest memories by far were all with the blue and white hoops and the Stormers.
So how many years did you spend up in Joburg with Lions and all that? And then when did that come to an end? When did you make
cool. So the
move back?
Lions was 2 years, and then I left Joburg at the end of 2014.
Yeah.
And I came down and I started with Province and the Stormers at the beginning of 2015, and then essentially retired in the end of April this year. So it was it was 7 years.
So moving back down, getting into the setup, like you said, getting into the Province way of things. How was that building yourself up into the first team over the years
Yeah, so I mean, firstly, definitely a different setup to what was at the Lions.
Okay.
But something that I kind of felt I fit better into, maybe a cultural change, or Dobbo had a lot to do with that. I believe in the way he coached the team. So my experience at Province, especially for the first year, was predominantly with Dobbo, with John Dobson. And I mean, I tell people this often. It was, for me, remarkable that I could find in a coach someone who combined the atmosphere and the environment of a club team. So what I experienced at Pirates, which is important about your social aspects, important, your family aspects, important. And he was able to combine that with an incredibly professional environment.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't sit well with everyone. I think some guys prefer strictly professional, but for me, it fit perfectly. And I think quite early, Dobbo and I struck up a relationship, and we understood each other. And I think he knew that I bought into his methodology of how he wants to run a team.
Yeah.
And essentially, I think, you know, I don't have the final figures. I think, let's say I played in total for Province and Stormers, I think it's like 130 games. I reckon about 70% of those would have been under Dobbo. And of those 70%, I reckon 90% are captain under him, because we seem to just understand each other perfectly.
Yeah.
And I think we fitted well together. I mean, I think we played to each other's strengths quite nicely. So like I said, so the first bit was strictly with Dobbo.
Yeah.
And then, so in 2015, I played Vodacom Cup and Currie Cup. And in 2016, I got my opportunity to play Stormers for the first time, as well as captain the Currie Cup team. But we didn't have the best season, I think. So 2015, we lost in the final. 2016, I think we lost in the semi-final. And then everything built up quite nicely. And in 2017, I played a lot of Stormers games under Flecky. And then we went and won the Currie Cup in 2017 away from home, which was probably my career highlight, I reckon.
I remember in 2017 when you guys were in the Currie Cup, and I think it was the Bosch Bishops Derby, and they gave you a shout out as one of the alumni and everything. I remember seeing it, and I was like, I remember seeing it, and I was like, oh, that's awesome, because I came to Bosch 2018, and I was still making the move in 2017, and I started watching, and my dad is an old boy as well. So
cool.
Seeing stuff like that was just
represent.
Yeah.
That's it.
No,
rad.
So
so I mean, go for it.
So your captain and your leadership roles in Stormers and Province, when did that come about? Was it 2015 or?
Yeah, so I mean, almost immediately. Almost immediately. I think Dobbo, I remember my good mate Mikey Willemse was captain when I arrived. So he captained for the first couple of games. He may have got injured in 2015, and then I took over. And then essentially I captained every game for Dobbo going forward. Obviously, when Dobbo became Stormers coach, then Seal was captain, and I was essentially vice captain. And I captained under Flecky a number of times as well. So that would have been in 2017 and 18 and 19. Yeah.
And John Dobson as a coach, what do you think about him?
Yeah, remarkable. Look, like I said, different in many ways. He's an incredible person. Manager, so his relationships and the way he constructs an environment where everyone feels part of a team is genius. He essentially, his technical strength lies at breakdown, so that's the department he looks after. He does have expertise in lineouts, but currently he doesn't do that. So he acts as essentially head coach, and the breakdown's his technical plan. But where his differentiator is his ability to identify and put together a place and an environment where people feel like they want to win for each other.
Yeah.
And it's different. You know, a lot of people believe that kind of stuff shouldn't exist in a professional environment. But I mean, I've had experiences and chats to guys who have played at all levels that really think that is unique, and for that reason, I think he's had fair success. I mean, I wish we had done better. You know, in 2020, we went. I think we went 5 out of 6. We went 5 out of 6, and then COVID hit. I've got no doubt that we would have gone into the quarterfinals at least in that year. But unfortunately, you know, COVID had different plans, and I still think that I think he's going to do some great things at the union. He just needs to be given the correct support and budget.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I remember the last game that I saw. I don't know if you remember it as well. I think I was there at Newlands. It was Blues versus you guys.
Yeah.
It must have been a month before COVID hit, at least.
So I'll tell you what happened. So we went. No, it was less. So we played Blues. We lost to the Blues.
Yeah.
So we played Blues, lost to the Blues. Then we went away to the Sharks.
Okay.
We lost to the Sharks. And so then we were 4 out of 6, I think. And then it was that Sunday already that they called it.
Yeah.
We were supposed to leave that next Tuesday for Argentina.
Okay.
And they said, cut it. You're not traveling. COVID's on the go. And, you know, that was another unique experience. I mean, we had to go into full lockdown just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But, you know, to try and keep fit and stuff was a unique experience. Yeah. Different times.
Yeah. And then I'm sure one of your highlights, or if not your biggest highlight of your career, 2017's campaign and winning Currie Cup and all that. How was that year summed up for you and the team as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think on a personal level, it was probably when I was playing my best rugby, especially in the Super Rugby. Okay. Playing a lot of rugby, getting opportunities. I think I was playing consistently well. And then we got into the Currie Cup, and we actually had a bit of an up and down season. We were good at times, but we were shocking in other times. You know, we lost to Griquas away, but it was a Wednesday at 1:00. But you know, we lost there. We lost to Pumas away.
Yeah.
But when we were good, we were so good that I had this faith that I knew we could do something special. And I mean, we had proper players. I mean, inside centre was Hugh Jones. We had Rob de Pre at fly half. We had Janu Vermaak and Devot Dievenage were our scrum halves.
Yeah.
JC Jansen van Rensburg at prop. We had like proper individuals. So like I knew, and it's so funny because, and that's exactly how a campaign works, is that it's very rare that you find a team dominates from start to finish and has no hiccups.
Yep.
And we came up against the Sharks in our last away game. And in order to be guaranteed a spot in the semis, that's how poor we were. We had to beat them away from home. And it was so tight. If we wanted to place a home semi-final, we need to win by a bonus point. So, I mean, the pressure is massive. Yeah. I'm having chats with the CEO on the bus before the game. He's basically telling me if we don't win this, there's big cuck. The president was there.
Yeah.
Anyway, it turns out we go to Kings Park, and everything just clicks, and we drill them, and that's the Sharks' first game that they're going to lose. So in their last round robin game, they're going to lose a game to us. We then play the Lions at home. We don't concede one try. We beat them like 20-3. They get 3 points. And they go, and I think they beat the Bulls fine or whatever. So then it's back to Kings Park.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because probably we were then on the upward trajectory, and the belief was there. Most of that final, I mean, it was by no means a smooth game. We started off a bit shaky and stuff. But just before second half, we scored. And I think when we walked into the changing room, the feeling was up, and I think the guys knew we can do it. And yeah, and that second half we almost blew them away. You know, we scrummed well.
Yeah.
Cobus Vista scored a great try around the blind, and Hugh Jones got man of the match. And that's the other thing about rugby. I mean, Jonesy is a good mate of mine, like many times, and my housemate at that stage, and my roommate. Many times, you know, I was concerned about his form. For example, the Pumas game away, but the class of the gent, you could just see that it was almost like the other games weren't important enough, and when the game was important enough, he was just in another league. And that was the case, both in that last Sharks game, the semi-final and the final. He was world class. He was he was like international player. And I mean, then lifting that Currie Cup was something so special. I mean, I don't even think I actually dreamt of it. I think it became a goal during my rugby career, but I think as a school gent, it was probably too far-fetched to even dream about it.
Okay.
But having that opportunity was flipping truly special.
So is that your highlight?
I think so. I mean, there's individual games that stand out, but I would say the career highlight was probably winning that Currie Cup. But there's other highlights that are there, but probably the one, if I must pick, was that.
I remember seeing Hugh Jones, also at Newlands, score a try. I think it was against the Sunwolves or one of those Super Rugby games. He scored a try, and I had already walked down with my cousin, because you have to leave the seats early so that you can get in front by the gate to get on the field and get seated at the end of the game. So we would have to abandon our seats, even if it was a close game, and then walk all the way around by ourselves to the gate to get on the field. And I remember as we were walking around, we looked through the one entrance, and I just saw him split through. It was amazing, actually.
Yes. And he runs almost on his front feet, but flip, he's got pace.
Yeah, great player.
He's a great player,
Played a lot of games for Scotland as well.
Yeah, he's quality,
Yeah. And then something I also wanted to speak about is the mental side of rugby for you in general, and the whole having to deal with being a professional rugby player and also having your own life at the same time, and just managing everything and getting through the lows and all that. How was that? How tough is it for you? How tough was it for you at times?
I think that's a great question, Jama, because I think if you can recognize that is a factor, then you're halfway there. You know, I said to a colleague this week, you know, what makes rugby so unique, I suppose it's any sport, but let me just talk about rugby.
Yeah.
In a normal business world, in a normal job, you would probably normally get a biannual review, so performance review, so maybe twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, where you'll sit with your boss and he'll say, you know, how do you think you're tracking? Do you think you are meeting your obligations? Do you think, you know, where can we improve? And then you go away, and then in 6 months later, you have another one. Does that boss even remember that? I don't know, you know, is it relevant? But if you think about it in professional sport and in rugby specifically, every week you get a brutal review on your game.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there's nowhere to hide. The world is seeing. So if you've had a shocker, you know, your mom can tell you well played, but you know, and the world knows that you've had a shocker.
Yeah.
And that can be low. That can be very, very low. And I think what I strived for, and look, everyone's different, but one of the main reasons why I continued to study, I continued to build a business, I continued to further develop myself outside of rugby, was that I felt it gave me a sense of purpose and drive outside of the game as well. And it's one must be very careful, because I never really advertise much that I was trying to build a business on the side, or that I was
Okay.
doing extra studies, because you don't want the team or the coaching staff to think that you're distracted. That's the last thing you want. But for me, it was always important that by keeping that balance, by keeping myself stimulated outside of the game, it actually worked. A lot of people would think that it would make you, let's say, for example, an off day.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wake up at 10 o'clock and then go and play golf and then go and play PlayStation. I'd wake up at 7 o'clock, go to gym, and then go to work for the rest of the day.
Okay.
And a lot of people would think that maybe I'll be exhausted by the time Thursday comes. But it actually works the other way. Because what's happened on that Wednesday, I haven't thought about the game once. So when I arrive on that Thursday, I'm so mentally refreshed and excited about being back with my mates and at the game I love. It worked, it worked in my favor. And, a lot of people, especially because of my journey, say, should I be studying and should I be doing a business? I say no. But what I do say is, for your mental state and to be the best rugby player that you can be, find something outside of rugby that stimulates you, that can keep you busy, that will refresh you when you get back to the field. Because it is all consuming. It's genuinely full on. I mean, you live, breathe the game. And if you can't remove yourself from it, because don't make a mistake, your mom and dad are going to ask you about the game on Saturday. The person you see in the street's going to ask you either about the previous game or the new game. So if you don't find something that's going to remove you from that, then I think you're going to struggle with mental fatigue.
So like you were saying, having that thing on the side to focus on, and not just rugby, having something else, that must have helped you a lot. And creating your business, obviously, and all that. So when did that come about, where you were getting more into the business side of things and all that?
So, I mean, I only completed my articles in March 2016. So by that stage, I was already a year and a half at Stormers.
Okay.
And then I literally did a month of only professional rugby. And then I was like, so then I did the whole thing of like on an off day, just playing golf and chilling. But it wasn't enough for me. It wasn't doing enough for me. I wanted more.
Yeah.
And so in the close of, I started basically immediately then setting up this business. And then in the close of that year, we got fully operational.
Okay. And coming to the end of your career, obviously with COVID involved as well, must have been not so good. But did you think it was the right time now at the start of this year to call it, or did you have it planned in your mind that this was the time, or did it just come about?
So it's a great question. So, I mean, effectively, I ended my career at the end of April. I still had a contract until the end of October. So for me, it was always important that I leave the game on my own terms. I think the fact that you've mentioned COVID is paramount, because it definitely, I'm sure my exit would have been different if it wasn't for COVID, but these are facts, And what actually happened was, during COVID, playing at empty stadiums, a lot of I wouldn't say the ugly side, but the less glamorous side was exposed. And it got me reflecting and thinking about other things. And basically what happened was, at the start of 2021, I started planning and plotting my exit. And at that same stage, John Dobson was wanting to know whether I was going to sign on. And with me planning, I had a number of conversations with previous or prior professional rugby players who have done really well in business. And one of them was a guy by the name of Rian Gous, who is the COO of Equitas Property Fund, where I took employment as of 1 May. And effectively what happened was, I went to him for advice, and he phoned me a bit late and offered me a job. And it was by no means that he was pressurizing me. He said I must come when I'm ready if I want to come. but most importantly, I wanted to walk away with my body intact. That was one thing. So my body not going out of the ACL and then taking medical insurance and then, never, and on my own terms. And I think the biggest definition of on my own terms is to be able to say to a union, take my money. I don't want it, It's very kind of you, but use that for something else. I'm going to walk away now because, I'm still in good nick and I can still play the game I love. And I want people to remember me like that. I don't want to be the oak that, a lot of people ask me, is it April Fool's or, there was a lot more shock than acceptance. And I think my eldest brother, who also played professional, told me that the power in that is worth a lot. And it was exactly that. Like, I would have much rather had people ask, why did you stop now? Than people ask, why didn't you stop last year, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So from a timing point of view, it felt right. I didn't effectively, there was only one or two people that knew. I kept it very close to me, and I stood up. I told Dobbo just before the team meeting, I said, listen, Dobbo, this is my last month here. And I just stood up and I told the team that I'm going to be moving on. And then, since that, it was a switch, and it was about all focusing my energy now on something new, which is exciting in its own. And with COVID, there was a lot of uncertainty and stuff. And I was looking forward to having certainty and to get to something exciting and something new.
And then, of course, so your situation now, so are you working in Joburg, or are you going up and down between, or?
Yeah. So the business I started in 2017 is still based at Palmyra Junction. So that runs, and I'm a non-exec director there.
Okay.
Great team that runs everything there. That's an accounting firm. And then the Equitas Property Fund, I started as one man. And originally I was commuting up to Joburg and living in Cape Town. And now I've switched it. So now I'm up in Joburg and commute back to Cape Town. But it's very much like, once every 2 weeks down there, or, even more. And but a great opportunity and very exciting, I must say.
Yeah. And then another question I forgot to ask you earlier. Did you ever think of going and playing abroad or leaving the South African scene?
So I did many a times offered. I suppose the offer was maybe never really good enough to vouch me going, but in saying that, I think there were some good opportunities. But what happened was, at the end of 2018, I went over to Saracens for 2.5 months. Okay. And while I was there, I noted that the business didn't struggle, but I didn't feel as in touch with it. After that, then I made the decision that I would rather stay in South Africa, stay in Cape Town, and remain however involved in the business. Then, because I knew if I go overseas, play rugby, it will be a great experience, and it would be very financially viable. But I just felt, from a timing point of view, it wasn't the best.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can understand that. And then your mates that you've made throughout rugby and all the guys back at Province, you're still in touch with all of them and all that?
Yeah. I mean, if you had to look back at a rugby career, but it'll be the same for you when you look back at your school career. Yeah. One of the top reasons why you had such a good time and why you loved it so much weren't because of the results. For me, it won't be only because of that Currie Cup final. Yeah. It will be because of the people I met and the friendships I made and the times we had together. Those experiences, we had some great tours and I've genuinely made lifelong friends in the sporting environment.
And I think that's also what's great about the game is, like, even now, like you said, in school and all that, the memories and the friendships that come with it, and the networking, the contacts that all come with the sport is amazing.
Yeah, one can't undervalue that. The network, like you said, maybe that's something I didn't mention. the opportunities you get to, the people you meet as a professional sportsman, you can also not undervalue. And then the interactions and the friendships are flipping world class.
Yeah. Who was your roommate when you were on tour and all that going on the season?
So you know that movie Good Luck Chuck? Do you remember that movie?
Yeah, I know of it. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, basically, what happens there is this oak in Good Luck Chuck. This guy, whenever he gets with a girl, then that girl goes on and marries someone. So he was like this lucky charm. And for some reason, I think in the rugby sense, I was that, because I had some of the best roommates, but it seemed like every time I became roommates with them, then they would go overseas. Because I had Nick Groom, I had Ollie Kebble, I had Damien de Allender, I had Dylan Lates, I had Scurry did sticked. He's the only oak that sticked. So I was very fortunate. I had Hugh Jones. Hugh Jones also left me. But no, I mean, you can imagine like touring to Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Argentina, these places, and you're going with a bunch of mates and you're spending every day in the same room with the oak. It's such a unique experience, but you obviously become so close. And that's why probably those names that I've mentioned now, they were my roommates for a reason, because we were close, and they'll remain my friends for life because we had those times together.
Yeah. And even talking of Skara, throughout when I was smaller, whenever I used to get signatures in that, Skara would always be like the first one I would get. And I had these balls, these rugby balls, these like small ones and normal ones and everything, and I'd get them signed. And I was still looking at them, and like it was Skara's signature over and over again. And my dad even said to me, like, "Yeah, see the guy." And I remember seeing him. I must have been in grade 8, and I got a photo with him. 3 weeks later, I was at this boat show event at the waterfront, and I was walking with my mates in the crowd, and then I just see Skara out the corner of my eye, and you can't miss him. Got a photo with him again, and my dad was even saying to me, like, "Yes, this guy's. I have like 4 different photos of Skara from over the years. I have his signatures on like 5 different rugby balls in the cupboard."
With his 2 lines, he puts the 2 lines and then he writes in between. For me, he's one of my closest friends, and the amount of respect I've got for him, because for me, he represents the game in South Africa the best of anybody I've seen, because no photo, no autograph, no charity event, no small favor is ever too much for that guy. And I think he's probably the best brand ambassador that I've seen. And when I say brand ambassador, I don't mean for a Adidas or a specific brand. I mean for the brand rugby, because he embodies everything that's good about rugby. Maybe he must just have less beers, but besides that, he embodies what a rugby player should be. The amount, you're a prime example. And you'll probably find the way he greeted you that second time, you probably find it felt like he knew you. And that's the way he greets everybody. And that's, for that, I've got massive respect.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I've been constantly thinking of ideas of different guys to get on, and he's definitely one that I'm looking into next.
We can do it. I'll get it for you, and he will do it so easily. He's that kind of guy.
Awesome. That'd be great.
In saying that, I'm just going to warn you, he'll probably forget the first time. You'll probably have to phone him, and then he'll have something going on, but he'll commit to the next time.
I know. I can imagine he's quite busy at the moment with
but we'll get him. I'll get him on for you. Don't worry.
Okay.
No problem, bro.
Sweet. Thank you. So their whole tour and everything at the moment, what do you think of this whole URC? And
I think it's when I watch it, I do think what a tour those guys must be having. I think it's incredible that they're getting the opportunity to play in these places. Edinburgh is a beautiful place. They get to go to Wales. I also think it's not going to be the worst thing for our rugby. The standard of that rugby is by no means poor. So I think it's going to be excellent for us.
It's tough.
I genuinely think it's tough, but I genuinely think we're going to do well because we're going to adapt to the conditions. Remember, they've got to come to us, which I think is going to be challenging in December.
Exactly.
And I mean, I've enjoyed watching it. It's something different, you know. I've definitely enjoyed it. I'm excited to see how we do.
And the Stormers team is I don't know if you could call it a young. I guess you could call it a young team right now.
No, it is. You're right.
Evan Roos and guys like that. Evan Roos is just an absolute animal. Yeah.
I'm surprised I didn't get the call up. I must be honest.
Yeah, I know. We were all talking about it at school, even in our like rugby debates, and we were saying Evan Roos. Another one we were talking about was Warwick Galant. Was another one that we thought could have been called up, but
I mean, I can understand that one coming back from an ACL. I think they just want to give him some more time, and I'll be honest that I think in his mind, Warwick, if you had to ask him personally, I mean, he would never turn down a call up, but if you were to say, "Are you 100% ready?" you'd probably say, "I'm probably not there," even though he got man of the match. I mean, he's getting there, but I think he would want to be, you know, when you get that call up, which he's had many times before, but I'm sure for his personal belief and mind state, he wants to be a couple more games in, I would think.
Yeah.
And that's probably part of their plans.
Yep. And then my last two questions for you before I let you go. So the first one that I forgot to ask about when we were talking about your accounting at school and all that, who was your teacher back then? Is it the same one that it is now, or Mr. Lloyd now? Was it Lloyd now that was your?
No, I didn't have Lloyd now, but he was there. I'm sure I had I had, but he is. I'm sure he's there. Give me some of the other oaks.
Right now for accounting, there's a guy called Mr. Clausen, he wouldn't have been there by in your time, and then there's Lloyd now basically carries the whole accounting department. There's no one really else.
Yeah, but I didn't have him. I'm trying. It was Mr. Rulofsson. Mr. Rulofsson, but he must have left.
Yeah. And the other teachers that you had, I'm just trying to think. Gary Endley, you must have known.
Yeah.
He's
so is he still coach? Is he still doing geography?
No, he retired. He retired at the end of last year, and now he's head of the grounds. So he's the head grounds.
Yes, he's a legend. He is such a legend. So I did. I don't know. Do they still do the White River trip? The White Rhino trip. Sorry,
White Rhino.
The White Rhino trip. So I did. He was one of the teachers that went on that.
Yeah. And then
incredible.
Others you must have had. We've lost a lot now over the years that have retired. Pulsar.
I mean, I didn't have him, but is he still there?
He also left at the end of last year. Also packed it in.
Okay, where have they gone? Are they retired?
Retired, yeah. I think in my time that I've been there, I've had a lot of the old teachers that have all retired, and it's like a new blood that's coming in.
Lekker.
Yeah.
And you in grade 11 now?
Grade 11 now, yeah. So and last year.
What position do you play?
Right now, playing flank and hooker. But I'm probably gonna have to transition from a trick next year to hooker. I've lost the other guys have all caught up to me in heights and everything. But I think hooker is a great way for me. But even yesterday, we started preseason already now. Training like three times a week now, preseason for next year. And even the coach yesterday said to me, "You need to come throw some lineouts in the mornings." Really? And I was like, "Oh, I've never thrown lineouts before, but." Yeah.
But you know what's great about that is that it's certainly a controllable, something you can get better and better at.
Yeah.
So if you're keen, you can put the work in and achieve great things.
Yeah, of course. And so my last question for you, of course, I'm sure people have asked you this one before, but being in the team and being part of Sia's journey and Sia Khaleesi and all that, what do you think of him as a person, as a rugby player, and also, like Skara, I think a brand ambassador for the game?
Yeah, so I mean, firstly, a great story. What a story. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, from his
Beautiful.
upbringing and what he's had to face.
Yeah.
A great human.
Yeah.
First and foremost, at the top, a great human. And, you know, I was fortunate because I was part of the squad where Flecky made him captain essentially for the first time, backed him as
Yes,
captain.
you said, yeah.
And the thing that I love the most about that guy as a leader is his vulnerability.
Yeah.
So he's got no he's not shy to say, you know, Chris, I'm not going to do the team talk. You know, I'm not good at that. You take it. Or Chris, you manage the on-field chat. I'm not good at that. Or, you know, and that, I think I'm learning more and more now as I still learn often about leadership, is that in order to gain respect and following, you don't always have to be the main oak in control and know everything. People also relate to vulnerability. And he's got this awesome warrior on one hand, because if you see how he plays, so you know he's always in it.
Yeah.
And then he's got the other side, which is this vulnerability. And you bring that together, and it's a great leader. And great rugby player. And also, like, most importantly for me is like a good human.
Yeah,
he's genuinely
I think that's amazing,
a good human, and that's what probably most commendable about him.
Yeah, and my story with him was Gray High. His old high school was playing at Bosch on a Friday after school, and they were playing cricket, first team cricket game, and they just come down for a tour. And I think he obviously wanted to come watch them while he was here and everything. And I remember I was walking past the cricket field on my way to a rugby practice on a Friday, and then this car pulls up next to me, and it was possibly the weirdest experience of my life. I was one of the weirdest, and I stopped and I was on my phone, and this guy like shouts at me. I come over, and then he puts down the window, and of course, like, I see it straight away. I know who it is straight away. In a Merc, like a Merc G-Wagon type of thing, you know, like, yes. I knew. And then he asked me, he's like, "Oh, do you know where Grey High are playing against Rondebosch and everything? You know what field it's on and all that?" And I looked at him, and for the first like 10 seconds, my head was just like, I was like, what is going on? Yeah. And I was like, I just stared at him, and he stared at me, and I was like, yeah, no, it's just down there.
proper shock,
Yeah. And then as he was about to ride off, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool and everything." I had to say to him, I was like, "Can I get a photo?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, it's cool." And I got to him before all the other guys in our school on a Friday afternoon had just realized that Sia was there. And then he got mobbed properly. Swamped. He was swamped in all the guys. And I still remember I sent it on the family group, and I was like, he just asked me for directions, and they were like, "What?" Yeah,
and just as well you got in there first, and you could show all the mates.
Exactly.
You're like, "No, it's chilled. I showed him where to go."
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Okay, well, I won't keep you for much longer. I'll let you go. So what are your plans here for the weekend?
Jana, I've got a braai in Joburg here with a mate of mine that I played a bit of rugby with, which should be quite. I'm hoping it's going to be relaxing, because last weekend, I'm hoping not, because last weekend I was on a golf tour in Betty's Bay, which was very eventful. Yes. So I'm quite keen just to take it a bit easy.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow I'll just get ready, maybe watch some Formula One and stuff, and I'll take it easy. But Brew, I'm serious. I'll help you out getting some guys. You send me a list of who you want. I mean, have you had Groomy yet?
I haven't had Groom yet. He was also
so
a good one.
Groomy must be next on your list. He's playing, also good value.
He's playing for that Tel Aviv. Yeah.
And then we get Scarra. We can get Scarra.
Yeah,
He'll
Scarra
definitely
will be
do
awesome.
it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can maybe ask him some tips for your throwing and stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking of that actually. Yeah, that'll be a great idea.
Yeah, you must ask him. But
Yeah,
no, cool. Send me a hit list, bro, and I'll try and
yeah, no,
make as many happen as
I
possible.
will. I'll let you know
All right.
when I get it up on YouTube and everything, and I'll put it
Cool.
all over
I'll try
Instagram and all that.
and I'll share it for you and stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
lekker.
Yeah.
So what is the vibe here? Are you just is it just gonna be sports stuff, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, just sports stuff at the moment. This is like what I want to do one day when I leave school. I want to go into the sports stuff, like not necessarily
Really,
playing,
so
but
sick,
yeah.
Do you know you should consider having
Yeah.
Tom Dawson's squib?
Yes. I saw Robbie, you were on Robbie Gillette had him as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
You must I promise you, because your line of, obviously your line of questioning can be a bit about his school days, which is great because he went to Bosch. Also a strong leader, great head boy.
Yeah.
And then also, you talk about, on a personal level, I think it'll be great for you to meet him because he can give you a lot of guidance on this kind of thing because he does it. And also on the whole post rugby thing, what to do, and more importantly, he's obviously the coach of UCT, so there's a bit of rugby stuff there as well.
I'm still trying to just figure out whether I want to stick with rugby. So I've only done rugby once so far. I think my fifth episode. So I did a guy called Graham Caldenes, Rondebosch old boy, who was much after your time. His brother is also professional.
I know Graham. Ross's brother, younger brother. Is it not?
I think so. Yeah, possibly. But he's playing professional rugby in the second league right now in the UK. So he was my first one.
That is him.
Is him. Yeah. So I spoke to him, and then episode 2 was Liam, of course, which was
cool.
A great one. And then episode 3 I did Dylan Sage, which was also cool one. Dylan Sage was cool. And then Dallin Stanford. You know Dallin Stanford.
Oh, rad.
Yeah.
So Dallin Stanford and my oldest brother he was 1 year young. My brother was 1 year younger than Dallin Stanford. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
But he's got
very, very close to his my dad was very close to his mom and family friends and everything. So yeah.
Rad. Yeah. Bro, there's a big list out there, a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are keen just to chat. So and the worst thing that someone can say is no, so you must flip and fire away. Yeah,
or just not reply, But I've sent a lot of emails and a lot of DMs and that off, but it's hard to.
But the thing is, but send me a list of who I must get, and I'll line them up for you.
I will. Thank you so much. It was awesome having you on. I'm sure all the guys back at school and all the rugby buggers, they already know that this one was happening. So
great, Brew. I'm looking forward to the feedback. And Brew, send me an email with the hit list, and I promise you I'll try and make it happen.
I will. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, JMO.
Cheers.
Thanks for your time, brother.
Man.
Cheers. Bye.